You don't smell like diesel after 15 years in the oil fields without it becoming part of your skin. It seeps in, under your nails, into your boots. Sometimes I think Andrea hated that more than she hated me. When we met, I was already working rigs out in Perry County. Long hours and longer silences. She used to say she loved how grounded I was. Back then, grounded meant steady. Later, it meant stuck. Now, she wears silk robes and calls herself a digital wellness strategist. That means she takes pictures of smoothies and gets flown to spas to talk about alignment. I've never seen someone so obsessed with balance who lives so lopsided. That morning, she was folding bikinis into a Louis Vuitton suitcase. She didn't even look at me when she said it. I'm leaving for Sedona tomorrow. Another wellness trip. That's what she called them. Last time it was Tulum. Before that, Aspen. None of them were cheap. None of them included me. I leaned against the door frame, still in my rig boots, covered in road dust. How long this time? She shrugged. A week. Maybe 10 days. Depend on who's there. I didn't ask who. I wasn't stupid. When we first got married, she used to cry when I left for a 2-week job. Now she barely noticed when I came home. The air between us had the feel of things left unsaid for too long, heavy, but brittle. You don't even ask how my trips go anymore, she said, pulling out a neon pink yoga set I'd never seen before. You just mope around like a ghost in work boots. I stayed quiet. Then came the blow, clean, sharp. Meant to cut. I won't sacrifice my lifestyle for your oil field career. She said it like she was choosing between champagne and sewage. Like I was the sewage. I don't know what I expected her to say. Maybe I wanted her to admit she missed who we were. Or lie, at least pretend, but she didn't flinch. She just zipped the suitcase shut like it was the last word. And maybe it was. Because something inside me didn't break. It stopped, like an engine that had been rattling for years, and finally, mercifully, gave out. I walked past her, grabbed my old duffel bag from the closet, and packed it in 5 minutes. She didn't ask where I was going. She just stood there, mouth slightly open, mascara perfect, like someone watching their favorite houseplant die and realizing they hadn't watered it in months. I didn't yell. I didn't even slam the door. I just laughed. The smell of diesel was still on my hands when I got in the truck. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel ashamed of it. The Perry job had us living in trailers, 30 minutes past the last paved road. Dust got into everything. Your food, your teeth, your sleep. But the silence was clean. And the men didn't care what brand your shirt was. I didn't tell anyone about Andrea. Not right away. Ricky, my crew chief, figured something was off. I told him she was doing her Zen retreat thing again. He didn't press. 3 days in, I met Walt, a retired pipe fitter who lived across from our site. Grumpy guy, sunburned neck, always smoking. He talked more than I liked, but he was harmless. One night, sipping cheap bourbon from a plastic cup, he squinted at me and said, "So, your lady still seeing that Porsche boy?" I blinked. What? Walt pointed his cigarette toward the highway. "So a shiny black one in your driveway last week. Young guy, real slick. That yours?" "No," I said, but something dropped in my gut like a wrench. I hadn't been home in 6 days. I waited until the next afternoon, drove back while she was out. The house still smelled like eucalyptus and the fake candles she always lit for Instagram. Everything was immaculate. No trace of a man in a Porsche. But then again, Andrea was nothing if not curated. I almost didn't check the bedroom drawer. Almost told myself it didn't matter. But there it was, tucked under velvet scrunchies and a satin pouch. Her old backup phone. The one she said she lost 2 months ago. It lit up when I plugged it in. No password. Maybe she thought I'd never look. Maybe she didn't care. Messages flooded the screen. Voice notes, photos, videos. Him, her, together. Explicit wasn't even the word. I felt sick, but not surprised. Chase Dalton. That's what he called himself. Luxury car dealer. Fake deep quotes. Sculpted beard. His voice made my skin crawl. Smooth. Performative. Like a man who'd practiced sounding seductive in his bathroom mirror. "You deserve better than a guy who smells like gas stations," he said in one clip. "Let me be your real life." And she replied, "God help me, like a schoolgirl. You make me feel seen. Not just handled. Handled." That's how she described me. Like a tool in a shed, I sat in silence for over an hour, phone screen glowing, the truth buzzing like hornets under my ribs. But I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I copied every message, every voice note, every photo, backed them up to a hard drive, labeled the folder Sedona_sins. Then I put the phone back exactly where I found it. When I left the house, I was already thinking like a man with a plan. She wanted to play curated? Fine. Let's see how perfect her world looks under real light. Asterisk 2 weeks later, I stood in front of a penthouse in Larkview Towers, wearing a suit I hadn't touched since my cousin's funeral. It fit a little tighter now. Or maybe I'd just grown thicker in silence. I had to show ID twice to get in. Apparently, Chase Dalton's engagement party was guest list only, but his assistant didn't recognize me. Or maybe he just assumed anyone wearing leather boots with a tailored jacket was somebody important. The place was absurd. Glass walls, string quartet in the corner, champagne flowing like a faucet that wouldn't shut off. Everyone smelled like designer cologne and entitlement. And there she was, Andrea, in white. Not ivory, not cream, wedding white. Her hair done in soft curls. Fake laughter curling off her lips like perfume. On her arm, Chase Dalton, preening like a rooster in a linen blazer. Sunglasses indoors. Of course, I watched from the back for 15 minutes, long enough to let the nerves settle into steel. When they stepped up for the toast, I moved slow, calm, straight through the crowd. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rush. I lifted my glass as I walked past the open bar, stepped into their little spotlight like I belonged there. To the happy couple, I said, loud enough to hush the room. Andrea froze. Chase squinted like he was trying to place me. Then his jaw tightened. You shouldn't be here, he said. Oh, I know, I replied, smiling, but I couldn't miss this, especially since we're not divorced yet. Andrea's face drained of color. Gasps fluttered through the room like sparrows hitting a window. I'd like to show everyone a highlight reel, I added, pulling out a USB and handing it to the DJ. He looked at me, then at Chase, then at Andrea. Then he plugged it in. The screen behind them, the one meant for engagement photos and mood lighting, lit up with something else. Screenshots, voice notes, a particularly breathy video where Andrea moaned Chase's name while wearing the same necklace she had on now. You could have heard a cork drop. Chase lunged. I stepped back. Let security earn their paycheck. Andrea tried to speak. Some pitiful denial, but it was drowned out by murmurs, by people pulling out phones, by the crashing sound of a curated image shattering in real time. I didn't gloat. Didn't even stay. I walked out the front door, calm as a man who just put down a heavy weight he'd carried too long. By Monday, the footage was viral. The wellness brand pulled their sponsorships. Chase's dealership went into PR lockdown. Andrea's Instagram comments turned to ash. She texted me once. You ruined everything. I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because I hadn't ruined anything. I just turned on the lights,